Hey, thanks for listening, folks. This is Richard at Doc Logistics. That's doc-logistics.com. My email address is richard at doc-logistics.com. And, and you could reach me if you are a shipper and you're looking for an honest, reliable freight broker agent to help you with your needs. If you're a carrier and you'd like to be on my preferred list, you can reach me at richard at doc-logistics.com. So, in the news recently has been Uber Freight. I've taken plenty of Ubers in my travels as a business to business development manager. And I've had some pretty good experiences, other than maybe my little blue dot wasn't right where it's supposed to be, but I think that was more on my phone than on Uber. So Uber gets into the freight business as a freight brokerage, and you know, and somewhat like what Amazon is doing, and we'll talk about that in a second. But right now, Uber is really reconsidering their decision making. They're trying to figure out if they made the right decision for their big business to go past passenger cargo and go into freight cargo. So, Uber does what I do. They match shippers and truckers, and they maintain the communication. And through my brokerage that I work with and partner with, uh, they handle the finances to get the driver paid. However, um, Uber in its size has realized through this pandemic, as most of us have, with the rising unemployment rates, and with so many people losing their jobs, Uber's going is really having to do the tough decisions that every other corporation has had to do: slash jobs, cut costs. And that's a little easier to do when you're you know a small to medium business owner. It hurts, but the pain is not as much. And you know when Uber looks at their P&Ls, they're realizing that they took a gamble going into this business, because it's not what they do. They figured they had the core idea of how to move an item from one place to another. In the beginning, people, and I've heard this a few times actually, where people say, being an Uber driver, you can go straight into being a truck driver. And I'm finding out that that could not be more opposite. That could not be more opposite. There's way more going on in being a truck driver. It is a lot more complicated than what you think. Hauling around that 48,000 pound machine, um, there's a lot involved versus a 4,000 pound, 3,000 pound Prius. So as Uber is reconsidering their big decision to get into the business, which my opinion is that they got into the business knowing Amazon was talking and working on getting into the business and just wanted to beat them to the punch. That's my belief. You could tell me I'm wrong, but that's what I'm thinking. And that's probably why they fall into this very basic statistic that says, new business owners tend to fail. They move in too quick. Their business plan isn't right. They haven't thought it through. Um, in this case, you know, Uber has not decided what they're going to do with Uber Freight, as they try to figure out what to do with that business, because that is an offshoot. That is basically what they do, move things from one place to another, but it's not what they do. They don't move cargo, they move people, and they're good at moving people. Um, the passenger business is much different. It relies on very simple pick up and drop off in very short spaces. Freight cargo does not. It involves a lot of people. You know, you don't pull up to a curb and open the door and your cargo walks out the door, right? No. There's a lot that goes on. There's paperwork, there's insurances, there's, you know, agreements, there's contracts, there's hazards, safety. Um, you know, so the last thing I saw on Uber Freight, it it has been a struggle to show a profit. It says that Uber Freight has lost $64 million in the first quarter, despite having a 57% jump in revenue to $199 million from the same period in 2019. So they figured they had the technology. They had the gist of what they needed to do. But there's more to it. Dispatching and drivers, right? So Uber Freight looks like their cargo division accounted for just shy of 6% of Uber's total quarter revenue. So as far as being a participating factor, it seems like it was a lot less than they expected. Um, they maintain, and the spokesperson says it, he's committed to growing the Uber freight business, innovating in the freight industry, and supporting his partners and shippers. Which is good. Um, they're really feeling like the pandemic got everybody, and it got them too. They were not immune to it, but they were in a fast expansion type mode um, before, in late 2019, early 2020. And they were looking kind of like Amazon, right? They were looking to hire thousands of employees, and they began hiring and they began firing right, the next day as soon as the pandemic hit. They were targeting CH Robinson as a competitor. Um, they do consider them the biggest freight broker in the U.S., a mega broker. And then they were going after the digital world. They were specifically targeting Convoy and Transfix. So the deep losses or the huge losses um, caused Uber Freight to start selling its service below its own cost. Ding, 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 ding. Cheap freight, cheap rates. So that's kind of where some of this is coming from. It's a mega broker who is on record of selling its services below its own cost. So as a race to the bottom again, and I spoke this on another podcast where your top line revenue does not always match your margins and gross profit. You can and you can sell less product and make your margins and be okay. And you do that simply by saying no to some less than desirable transactions. Uber did not do this. They were quick to the yes, and they did a race to the bottom, and now they're struggling that the business, and this is not me saying it, this is Morgan Stanley, the financial service. Analysis is showing that last year it was suggested that the business would not generate profits for years. Under this business model, it would, in my opinion, it would be very difficult. Um, a lot of drivers have mentioned that there was no real cool, innovative tech that went along with Uber's uh, digital load matching algorithms and formulas. Everything seemed to move slow. There's so many new freight matching systems out there that what they had just really didn't seem to dazzle, make any really huge, significant difference. But it was something that it's what they had, it's what they rolled out. My opinion is they ran it out. They rolled it out too quick, and they may have been thinking too much about passenger cargo rather than freight cargo. So, um, I think, in my opinion, that Uber Freight will continue because they can afford to continue, but it is probably one of the reasons freight rates go down. Clearly, it says right there one of the marketing or one of the business plans Uber had was a race to the bottom. They were thinking that if they lowered and enticed drivers or shippers, maybe they were lowering their rates so low that shippers could not, it was an offer they couldn't refuse, but not realizing the cause and effect of charging such low rates would have on the roads in lane rates. So charging those low rates to the shippers, which is great. I mean, I understand where they're coming from, but they promise to be a premium service, and sometimes your premium service does cost a little more, and it probably should be priced right, or someone should have looked at that, priced it right, which would have in turn priced the lane rates correctly. Instead, they went low with the shipper to entice as many shippers as they could. And the end result was they participated by some percent in the crippling of the rates that the drivers are frustrated over. What other brokers, small and medium sized like myself, are frustrated over because those shippers are getting such a low dollar to move those loads. Uber has got their drivers bidding low again against each other to try to take those loads. So it's a race to the bottom. Folks, this is Richard at doc-logistics.com. That is my email address. My website is doc-logistics.com. You can always visit me at Facebook and Twitter. Reach out to me if you're a shipper that's looking for an honorable, respectable broker. I'm your guy. Shoot me an email. I'll send you a package. We'll get started. If you're a carrier and you'd like to be on my preferred list, you can reach me at my email. And guys, you have a great day. Be safe. Drive safe. Make sure you get plenty of rest.